Good morning and welcome. This is a Yoga Pilates fusion class. We're going to take a few moments to lie down and breathe. So you can do that either by just simply lying down on your back, laying down, or you could create a little extra kind of opening for the chest and the secondary breathing muscles by using either a couple blocks or, like I'm going to do, a rolled blanket. So I've just folded this blanket so it's about the length of my spine and maybe about 5 or 6 inches wide. You can go a little bit wider, but you just want to have an area for the shoulders to kind of drop over. So anywho, we're going to put the blanket down and then we're going to lie down over it. Or you can just lay down on the floor, as the case may be. So what happens when I lay down over the blanket is my shoulder drops down. And what's nice about that, there's a couple things, but what's awesome about it is that if I spent a lot of time sleeping like this, or if you've been leaning over a computer, this helps open up, create a little bit more space. You can also, if you have a little excess, you can create a little extra head support. I like the blanket to go down to just about the bottom of the rib cage, and then you can do straight legs, or you can have bent knees, or you can even put your feet together like little butterfly wings. So take a few deep breaths. Take a moment, just notice. You might have to make a few little adjustments. If you can do it for about another 10 breaths or so, we're going to focus on expanding the rib cage. So you might have to do it every couple of breaths or every other breath, but restricting the navel just a little bit and really kind of pressing up to get some space moving in the ribs. So we're releasing the little pectoralis minor muscle, which is a secondary breathing muscle. And then the intercostals, the muscles that live between the ribs, also help us breathe when we're using the abdominal muscles. So spending a few moments just expanding those using the breath, since that's part of their job. If we've got tension in the back or in the muscles that live between the ribs, it's harder to get a deep breath and still maintain some of that abdominal control. So we're going to take a nice big inhale. You can even stretch your arms up if you like. And then we're going to roll to the side and go ahead and slip the blanket out. Come on back onto your back. And then we'll pause for a moment and just notice if there's any kind of sensation or any change. Almost always I can feel kind of a little impression left behind by the blanket, but I'm interested too in how my shoulder lands, because quite often when I first lie down, it feels like my shoulder is moving forward, and then when I'm done, it feels like the shoulder, the arm bone at least, has dropped back into the shoulder a little deeper. And so just checking on those kinds of things, and if there's any tenderness or anything you want to be mindful of today. So we're going to bring the knees in, and I'm going to take my arms out like a T. So I'm going to put my palms down and see how that works. You could also do palms up if that's problematic for the wrists. So we're going to try to keep the upper body nice and stable. The knees are going to, like the neutral zone, if that's the right word, is going to be right over the top rim of the pelvis, right? So slightly lower than the navel. You're going to bring the legs over to one side. Now you can just hover. You can curl the knees in towards the armpit, which is what I'm going to do. Or you can straighten out one or both legs. Your task though, because that's creating resistance, is to still hold the shoulder onto the ground as best you can. Okay, so we're using the obliques, and then we're also using a bunch of stabilizer muscles. So we're going to come back to the center with the knees about in that neutral position, then lift the knees up as high as you can, bring them back to neutral, come over to the other side, and then you're going to choose, depending on your space limitations, that sort of thing, you'll choose how you want the legs to move. So we're just going from one side to the center to the other side, just to get everything warmed up. Now if there's any problems for your low back, take it back a notch. Do this whole thing twice more. Good. Now after you've taken that second side and you've come back to the center, curl it in again, and then we're going to pause and grab hold of the right leg. You can stretch your left leg all the way out and just let it rest for a moment. Spin your right foot in circles. So kind of lubricating that ankle joint. Go the other direction after a bit. And then you're going to point and flex at the ankle. Kind of try to spread the toes out as you're flexing back. You get a little bit of movement in the muscle that lives in between the toe and the metatarsals. Okay, so we're going to give this leg a little hug. Now you can just keep it where it was, or you can turn it a little to the side and hold it. Hold onto your thigh, hold onto your shin, flex your foot, keep your toes pointing the same direction as your knee, or you can reach in here and grab the foot and take it into a little bit of a half happy baby. And then we're going to stretch this other leg out, and maybe even that whole side, so we get a little length through the hip flexors. Now I'm going to pull this knee down a little bit so I'm closer to the ground, and then I have a little bit more space for this hip flexor to open up. So I'm going to keep going, a couple more breaths here. I'm going to let this go. I'm going to release that knee, and then I'm going to put that leg down so that the foot is resting right there on the floor in a constructive rest. Bringing the hands behind the head, I'm going to reach this leg out nice and long, and then curl it in and curl up toward it. I'm going to do two more like that, just coming straight up the middle. Stretch out, and then curl in. Flex your foot here and really stretch through the top of that thigh. Curl in. So now we're going to go across. So we're going to stretch that leg out nice and long, and then bring it over towards the right and twist a bit. Stretch it out long, towards the right, twist. Stretch it out long. Oh, it feels good. So twist. Now we're going to take that knee towards this outside left elbow. So stretch it out long, come into the outside edge, stretch it out, outside edge. And one more time, stretch through that hip, outside edge. And then we're just going to pause. Bring both feet down. And then just pause for a moment and notice how things feel. So we're going to let the right leg relax, hug the left leg in, and then spin that left foot in circles. We'll go the other direction after a bit. And then point and flex. And notice again if there's any tension or anything you could kind of stretch out between the toes. So we're going to take that leg and you're either just going to hug it, you're going to take that kind of sort of like a pigeony shape, or you're going to take hold of it in this little half happy baby, and then we're going to stretch out the right side. And again, if you kind of pull the thigh a little bit down, you get a little bit of a lift through that right hip. It might give you slightly more room to get into the stretch. You may not need more space. It might be plenty just as it is. Last big breath here. And then I'm going to take this leg and just put it right back down on the floor. So I've got that constructive rest kind of positioning. Hands behind the head. We're going to use that so we keep that neck nice and stable. Reach out through that right leg and feel the front of that hip reaching out, and then curl it in and stretch it out and curl it in and stretch it out. Curl it in. So again, with the next three, we're going to go across to the left elbow, so it'll be a bit of a twist. Really feeling that stretch out, spread out the toes, reach through the heel. So we want both halves of this to be equally attended to. The movement and the stretch. So now we're coming up towards the right elbow. So go into that outside. We're going to let ourselves bring that right leg right back where it came from. Give it one more stretch. And then just notice if there's any difference in the way the hips feel compared to what you checked in with last time. It's pretty good. It's pretty great. All right, you guys, we're going to come up to all fours. But before we do that, we'll just flip over. And then you can do a few rounds of cobra if you like, before you get to the all fours position stuff. Or you can go right into that all fours and just work with a cat-cow shape. We're going to bring ourselves up to all fours. Do these little sidewinders. If you've never done these are good. So you kind of curl to the side. So you do maybe some ups and downs. And then get kind of neutral with your spine and curl to the side. So you get the little side waist into it as well. Sometimes I'll do them a little more rounded or a little more swayed as well. Now when it feels like a good idea, we're going to come to what feels like neutral in the back. Now if you need your wrist a little less bent, you can either just put your hands a little further shoulder out in front of you, or you can add a block under your elbow. We're going to take the right leg back behind and then the left arm out and reach between those 2 points. You want nice stable wrist here. Lift through your navel, hug in the sides of the waist, and then reach. And one more breath here. We'll bring those 2 down, take the opposite 2 up, left leg, right arm. Reaching between those 2 points again, kind of drawing in a bit through the center. One more. We're going to come down. Ignore any large crashing sounds. I'm not sure what they're up to, but they're up to something. Just, I'll fix it later. All right, so we're going to do right leg, left arm, nice big stretch, and then curl in, and stretch it out, and curl it in, and stretch it out, and one more time we're going to curl it in, and stretch it out nice and big, and lower those 2, opposite side, left leg, right arm, big stretch, curl in, stretch it out, oh, curl it in, stretch it out, one more time, curl in, reach, lower down. All right, we're going to do a little shoulder stretch that kind of takes place somewhere between a child's pose and an all fours. So I take my knees a little wide, take right arm under the left armpit, and then you just want to find the position where it doesn't feel like there's too much weight on your head, but you've got a little bit of pressure on the shoulder. So that might be closer to child's pose or closer to, you know, pushing forward. You can use your spare arm over your back, or just press the floor away with it, or use it like a pillow, whatever works best. We want to try to get a little bit of weight in the shoulder so we can kind of press against it and stretch out the area under the shoulder blade. Ooh, it feels nice. One more breath. And take that arm out, do a little rinse, do the opposite side. And the head should have very little weight on it, most of the weight in the shoulder. We're going to put the palm on the floor, release that arm. Now when it feels like a good idea, we're going to go into downward dog. Move my shoulder blades just a little bit first. And then once you've gotten to downward dog, you can take a few moments to sort of explore that shape. I like to move the shoulders, I like to move the legs. Just try to kind of find some places that feel a little bit more balanced and places that feel a little edgier. Notice where the tight places are today. And then from downward dog, we're going to take a wide angle with the legs and walk the hands back to the feet. So we're going to turn the toes out, and how wide this is depends a little bit on how it feels for you. So if it feels a little vulnerable around the hip joints or the groins, then I would go a little smaller maybe. No, if it feels okay, you can pause with this. You're going to bend the knees so it's almost a squat, such that the spine can rest and there's not any pull on the hamstrings, okay? So then we'll come up halfway and lengthen through legs as best you can. If you need to come up higher than halfway, that works too. And then come back to that squat. We're going to sway over to one side, doesn't matter which one you start with. So right now that knee is bent, and then I'm going to straighten that leg out while I'm over here. Okay, so this might get a little too intense in the hamstring, so you may not want to straighten it quite as much. The feet are closer together, it might be a little bit more intense, the feet wider apart a little less, but that depends. Everybody's body's a little different. Stretching that leg out straight, and then coming back to a bent knee. So I'm going to come back to the center, both knees bent. Come up halfway, straighten out the legs. Exhale, fold. Sway over to the opposite side, and again, that knee is bent to start with, and I'm going to straighten out the other leg, and then switch. And then bend, and switch. So again, depending on how sharp that feels in your hamstrings, it might be something you keep that knee maybe a little bit on the bent side, even if it's mostly straight. Okay, so we're going to straighten it out one more time, and then bend both knees, come back around to the center. You can heel toe in a bit more, and then we'll come up halfway and all the way to standing. And give yourself a nice big stretch. All right. Now, we're going to take a position at the top of the mat. If you need to do a few little adjustments, like I need to make my mat sticky. And put my hair in a tie. Oh, and then once you've done all those little things, got to drink water, whatever it is, we're going to pause at the top. Now, mountain pose has, during quarantine, or whatever this time period in our world we're calling, has become kind of a little touchstone for me. It feels like an interesting metaphor for life in general. Like, can I stand tall and sturdy even when things are rumbling in my nervous system? Oh. Can I let myself be a little bit vulnerable in the heart? At a time when it feels like maybe more love is needed. So all those metaphors, but in any case, for the most part too, it's an opportunity to pause and notice the body, and then we'll notice changes as we go along. So for now, just notice where the weight wants to land. See if you can make it even. Notice if the knees want to lock out. See if you can let them be a little bit bent. Let the shoulders relax. Whether you decide to practice with your eyes closed or you leave your eyes open can make a difference too. So if you want to go a little more inward, keep your eyes closed. If it feels like you've been too insular and you need to go outward, keep your eyes open. We'll take 2 more breaths there. Inhale comes along, you can reach your arms up and create a stretch, maybe even a little baby back bend. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Now we're going to step back with the left leg, and we're going to take a lunge position. If you are short-armed like I am, you might find blocks helpful. So reaching way back through the foot so that my right knee stays pretty well over the ankle. And I've got a long enough space to feel that stretch through the heel. That's going to be the beginning of my lunge. So we're going to take this lunge a little straighter through both legs. I'm going to lift up onto the very ball, tiptoe if I can, and pause there. And then I'm going to come back, front knee bends, reach back through the heel. Okay? So a little straighter in the leg. Blocks are super helpful here, so it's not too intense on the hamstrings. And then pushing back through the heel forward through the knee. One more time, lifting the hips and straightening up a bit. And then coming back to that position. Now I'm going to add a twist. Once I've got this knee in place, I'm going to keep pressing back through my heel. Try to mostly keep my left hip stable so the twist mostly goes into the back. Good, last breath here. And then bringing both hands to the floor, we'll step back into down dog. Once you get to your down dog, just pause for a moment, feel the two legs, and then we'll come forward into plank. Now you can do a full plank, or you can modify your plank. Draw in through the navel, reach from the tailbone to the crown of the head, take a nice big breath, and then exhale, lower down. You can go halfway or all the way down, come into cobra or upward dog. So you get to modify your little vinyasa sequence as you like. Come on back up, we'll tuck the toes, take it back to dog. Now we're gonna lift that left leg up and bring it towards this upper left arm. Maybe it touches, maybe it doesn't. Reach it back, stretch, exhale, curl in, reach it back, stretch, exhale, curl it in. Reach it back, give it a good long stretch, and then we're gonna step it forward as far as it goes. Put your weight on that leg, step the other one forward. Come up halfway, exhale, fold, come in all the way to standing. Give yourself a nice big stretch. And then find yourself in your mountain pose again. Noticing the difference, if there is one, between the last mountain pose and this one. Right side, left side. Nice big breath on your inhale, stretch up. Maybe a baby back bend. On your exhale, fold forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. We're going to step back with the right foot. Find that same shape. So I've got a lunge. Knee is over the ankle or a little bit, maybe a little bit further back, but I've got room to press that heel back. And then I'm going to try to straighten both legs, come up onto the tiptoes on that back leg, and then go back, reaching out through that lunge. Straightening out, coming up onto the little tiptoes. And then knee forward, heel goes back. Oh, it feels good. Once again, tiptoes, or straighter leg as the case may be. And then the knee goes forward, and this is where I'm going to add my twist. Again, reach through the heel, try to lift that thigh, hold the hip as stable as you can. We're not trying to force the hip to do anything, we just want to mostly make the spine do the twist. And the hip is so helpful that it'll do most of the work if we let it. Come on back out. We're going to put the hands on the floor and step back into down dog. And then from that down dog, just noticing. Bringing yourself forward, we're going to lower all the way to the ground, so if you want to maintain your plank for a moment, so you get a little extra work, go for it. And then when you're ready, come all the way down. So the hands are going to start high, fingers spread out. So the top of my shoulder is actually a little behind the tips of my fingers. So the hands are quite high here. Reach back through the legs, press the legs into the ground. Lift into cobra using your back muscles, broaden your collarbones open using your arms. Come on back down, slide your hands back an inch. Or so, nobody's getting out of ruler. So press the legs down, lift, broaden the collarbones. Beautiful, bring the hands back an inch. Press the palms down, press the legs down, lift, broaden the collarbones. Good, coming down one more time, bringing the hands back. Now this one might get a little dicey for the wrist, but once we're up, I think it'll be better. Lift, if it's not, just be kind. Take your shoulder blades in, collarbones wide. Let your head go along for the ride. Then we're going to come on back down. Now, you're going to lift your right leg and flip it all the way up and over so that you wind up on your back. So if you need to, scooch all the way to the side of your mat so that as you bring that right leg over, you wind up more or less on your mat. It might be a little more, a little less. So we're going to bring this right knee in and bring the hands behind the head. And again, we're going to do a twist here. We're going to twist, but then we're going to go a little bit more and a little bit more and try to really make the obliques do a ton of work. We'll come back to the middle. Both knees will be in. You'll stretch the other leg out. Curl, curl, curl for 3. Come back. Now, you can hover the leg like that so that there's a bigger amount of work for your hip flexor, or if you've got vulnerable hip flexors, you can let that leg rest on the floor, okay? So depending on how that works for you, you're going to curl yourself in, hands behind the head so you can keep your neck nice and stable, extend one leg, other knee is curled in. We're going to curl toward it. 1, 2, 3, to the center. Inhale, exhale. 1, 2, 3. 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 Inhale. You got the idea. We're going to keep going. We got 3 more sets to go. Last set for me. Good. Bring both knees back. You can put your head back down. Give yourself just a moment. A little back massage. A couple of deep breaths. In case you had to restrict your breath to make that happen. All right, so we're going to take the hands into one of 3 possible positions. Position 1, behind the head, and then you curl up and press your head into your hands. Position 2, beside the body, press down firmly into your arms. Position 3, slightly under the body, and then press down through the arms. So it depends a little bit on the leverage. If you've got longer legs than you have torso, it might be better to have the hands in closer so that you can maintain the stability of your low back. If you have different proportions, you might want the extra work of having to hold yourself in this curled up position and lower the legs, okay? So whichever version works better for you, you're gonna do that. We're gonna take the legs straight up and kind of glue them together at the heels. Spread out through your toes, reach through your legs, lower and down for 4, 3, 2, 1. We're gonna hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1, and come back. As you're holding, you're gonna hug the sides of your waist in and really control that navel, okay? Here we go, lower down, 4, 3, 2, 1, squeeze and hold, 2, 3, 4, come on back. Lower down, 4, 3, 2, 1, draw it in, 3, 2, 1, come back. Lower down, 4, 3, 2, 1, hug in, 3, 2, 1, come back. Lower down, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold steady, 3, 2, 1, come back. Now this is our last one. Whew. Gather your courage, lower down, 1, 2, 3, 4, now hug it in, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, spread those toes, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come on back, bend your knees. You can put your feet on the ground. Little windshield wipers feel good after that. So we're gonna flip ourselves all the way back around. So we're just gonna take the right leg over. We might wind up off our mat. Come into a cobra. And then come back to down dog. Oh. Some days. We're gonna take that right leg up. Bring it towards that upper right arm. Curl it in. Stretch it back. Curl it in. Stretch it back. Oh, curl it in. And then we're going to stretch back. Step that foot forward. Put your weight on it. Step the other one up to meet it. Come up halfway. And then all the way to standing. Ooh, I've got a lot of plans. Stretch. Oh. And then we'll take a mountain pose and feel. I like how the subsequent mountain poses feel lighter and a little more enlivened. Hopefully you feel the same way. So we're going to shift the weight into the right leg. You're going to bring the left leg into a balancing pose. You can do a tree, a dancer, a bird of paradise, an eagle, whatever you might like. You get to pick. My pose lately has been tree pose, so I'm going to go with that. Press the foot into your hand or the foot into your leg. Create some stability. If you fall, you just catch and come back. Nice big breath. So we're gonna pick this leg up or let go of it and step it back. We're aiming for warrior one. So the foot's on the ground, but I can turn my rib cage forward. Never try to square your hip forward. It always should come from either the whole leg rotating forward, or you should follow the, if you can't do that, follow the ankle, okay? So this should all be one chain so that your knee doesn't pay the price. The rib cage is a little more mobile, right? We've already figured out we can twist our spine, so we can turn that more forward, or you can kind of aim in whatever way your hips are aiming, which I think is the better idea. So we're gonna take the arms up, bring them back, squish the shoulder blades together, push forward, try to hold this shape. Nice big lift, bring it back, push them forward. Big lift, bring them back, push them forward. Now you can either leave the arms up, this makes a little bigger leverage, or you can put the hands at prayer. We're gonna stretch forward, and this is the spine stretch in Pilates. So you reach out through your spine. When you get to the point where you can't go any further, you run into your thigh, round over, roll up. And we're aiming to feel the spine roll one vertebrae at a time into place. I like to do it with my eyes closed, but it makes me wobbly. So do it the way you think is right. Stretch out, big, 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 big stretch. And then curl up. And try to feel a little placement of the vertebrae. There's spots where vertebrae all work together, and some of us have a lot of flexibility in our spines. We might feel lots of movement individually. And some of us may feel it just goes up in chunks. But do what you can, because we're trying to access some very specific little muscles in between the bones. We'll see how it works. All right, we're gonna straighten out the front leg, and then you're gonna fold as far as it makes sense. You can use blocks. You're gonna take up your back leg and turn it all the way forward, or as close as it'll get. Your heel may not touch the ground, that's okay. Feels like you're on a tightrope, just widen your feet apart a little bit. And we're stretching maybe the calf muscles on the back leg and the hamstrings on the front one. Ooh, feels good. Now you have a choice here. We're going to take 2 more breaths, but you can consider the choice. So you can either from this pose step back into down dog, complete a vinyasa and come to the top of your mat. Or if you've had enough vinyasa, then when you're ready, you're just going to come up to the top of the mat, come up halfway, fold, and come to mountain pose. And then those that choose the vinyasa, you'll just make that happen, and then come to mountain pose at the end there, and we'll all join up together. So whether you get to hold your mountain pose for a while, or just a beat or so, that's the way it'll work out. Okay, so when you get here, you're going to shift your weight into your left leg. We're going to bring the right leg into whatever balancing pose you did last time, whether it was a tree or something else. Finding a nice, steady place to balance. Or be wobbly, as the case may be. 2 more breaths. All right, so I'm going to pick this leg up and step it back, and we're aiming for that warrior one. So again, I'm going to just make sure that I'm treating myself well by lining up my leg in the back. Okay, shoulders back. Arms push forward, arms up, shoulders back, arms push forward, arms up, one more, shoulder back, arms push forward. All right, so either we're gonna stretch forward with the arms extended, or you're gonna put your hands down and do it that way. It's really, we're trying to stretch and roll the spine. Nice big breath. Stretch your back out really long, use your core. Roll yourself up. one more. Reach out and stretch. Roll it up. We're going to straighten out the front leg and fold over it. And again, we're going to pick up this back foot and turn it forward so that you get a nice, a nice even pelvis as best we can anyway. And then nice hamstring stretch, maybe a calf stretch. We're just breathing. You might need this knee more bent. Don't be afraid to bend your front knee. You don't want to tear your butt. That would be a drag. Couple more breaths. Okay, big inhale. Now this time we're all going to step back to down dog. So we're going to put the hands on the mat and step it on back. Notice your dog. Is it any different than the last few we've done? And then you can hang out with your plank for a while. When you're ready, come all the way down. Now we're going to turn the head to one side. When we lift, we're going to bring the head back to the middle. When you come down, you'll turn it the opposite way. So the head's going to lift and then turn, okay? We're going to take the arms back. Now you can either lace your fingers together, put one palm on top of the other, or just rest your arms beside you. You're going to bring your heels in and we're going to kick in 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then extend, lift, head to the middle, come on back down. 1, 2, 3. Extend and lift, come on back down. 1, 2, 3. Extend and lift, and down. 1, 2, 3. Extend and lift, coming down. 1, 2, 3. Extend and lift. Good, one more on this side. 1, 2, 3. Extend and lift, and then we're going to come down. Now we're taking the left leg up and over to bring us onto our back. So you might need to adjust so you'll be on your mat when you get into that position. Oh. All right, take a moment. My left leg is bent for now. My right leg is straight. So I'm gonna do some little some little curls. I can lift this leg and hug that in and leave this leg resting, or I can lift that leg as well, okay? So we're gonna curl up. So I'm gonna bring myself up. I could just do that, lift that leg, and then come back to the opposite leg, lift that leg. That might be enough, right on? If I wanna add on to it, I then lift this leg, curl in, switch, okay? Or I can, oops, sorry, that way, curl in, or I can hover that leg, switch, curl in, all right? Switch, curl. So you're just choosing the right amount for you. Inhale while you're switching, exhale to curl up a little bit. And again, keep your head pressing back into your hands so your abs have to do that work and not your neck. One more. Good. Bring both your knees or both your feet down. You can take your knees a little side to side. Take a couple of deep breaths. Now, we're going to do a little bit of bridge work. So we're going to start with a rolling bridge, which is called Dvipadapitham in Sanskrit. Dvi is 2, pada is foot. Pitham is the act of lifting your butt in the air and coming back down, or at least it's that movement, right? So it mimics a movement of a wave. So we're gonna bring the feet in pretty close, like we would for a bridge, and then you're gonna try to peel yourself up one vertebrae at a time. So I put my arms very firmly on the floor. Sometimes I'll even do little robot arms. You can do whatever arm position works, but keep your shoulders stable, okay? So we're gonna peel ourselves up one vertebrae at a time. When you get to the top, pause there, and then you're gonna, I like to lift my toes up off the floor. Some people lift onto their tiptoes instead, and then curl it down. And this just lets me really control the movement of the pelvis so I can get that lower part of my back to come down one or as close to one vertebrae at a time as possible. Now once I hit the top of my sacrum, I just let it all go, okay? So we're gonna try that 4 more times. Lifting with an inhale. I pause and exhale. Take a nice big breath and come on down. Try to go slow. You want to feel your back bones touching down on the floor if you can. So this works these little muscles in between the vertebrae called the multifidi. Lifting it up. And then, of course, we're also working our glutes. And stretching out our hip flexors and our navel area. All of the abdominals on that front portion. Get a little bit of a stretch, and then as we're coming down, we're using all of that to help stabilize and lower slow. This is a great exercise. Really, seemingly we're not doing much, but we're actually doing quite a lot. So we got 2 more to go. Or at least I do. You might be a little ahead of me. That would be all right too. Again, really slow it down so you can feel those bones touch the floor one at a time. I find it a lot easier to feel that in this pose than I do in the spine stretch in the warrior that we did. About here with my vertebrae right now. And now I'm feeling that lumbar. I'm trying to put them down one at a time. They like to be a unit. I'm trying. And then you let the sacrum go. Okay. So then you can release your legs and give everything a shimmy. So we're gonna take the right arm up and roll onto the right side. Now I'm resting my head on my arm. I've got my hips stacked, hip on top of hip, shoulder on top of shoulder, okay? I want to maintain this torso area completely stable. So I'm gonna hug in the sides of the waist, including the one on the bottom, and try to keep no movement happening here while we move the legs. So we're gonna bring the feet behind us, lift them up. So now I've got an internal rotation here with my thigh. And if you feel for it, you should be able to feel your little greater trochanter, this little bony spot right there in your femur. Some people have a prominent one, some people not so prominent. But if you really feel for it, you can probably find that little lump right there. When I take the leg the other way, that little lump disappears into the big glute muscles, and so it feels smoother, right? So this is an external rotation. And then you can just hold this for a beat or extend the top leg. Now, if that bothers your knee, it's because your hip's not strong enough yet. Okay, so just hold it. Bring the foot back together and then close the leg back up. We'll get that internal rotation. So we're gonna work the internal and external rotators here. We're also gonna work the abductors and adductors. So lots of great work for the thigh and the hip. So open, extend that leg nice and slow, bring it together and close it up. We're moving like we're underwater, super smooth and slow and controlled. One of my favorite exercises, actually. I want to keep my torso very stable while I'm doing this work with my legs, so I'm still hugging in through the abs. Abdominal muscles are mostly stabilizers for the body, so they do a little bit of work to flex the spine, but we're really trying to put them to their job of stabilizing us. Right on, so we're going to do 4 more of these. right, so now once the knees are together, we're going to straighten out. All right, so we've got a nice long shape, but hips are still on top of hips, shoulders on top of shoulders. So we're trying to maintain that and swing this top leg forward. There's a tendency to roll forward or back here, so be mindful of keeping your hips stacked and your shoulders stacked. Now I bend my knee and put my foot on the ground, and that gives me a little more stability. We're going to lift this bottom leg up and hug up the side of the waist. We're going to pulse this leg up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hold it steady now. 10, 9, lift a little higher. 7, 6, hold that sideways high. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Bring it on down. Now we're going to come up for a boat pose. So we're going to come all the way around. Bring ourselves up. Hug the knees in. And that might be enough boat pose for one day. Lift your heart, squeeze the thighs and the torso together. Or you can do these little pulsations. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. If you're a little stronger, go out longer. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. We're going to do the other side. So this gives me a chance to just flip around. Oh, yogis. All right, so once you're laying on your left side, hips on top, shoulders on top of each other, we're going to take the legs, bring them around. And again, so we want to avoid that falling forward. So we're going to try to really lift through the sides of the waist, hold that hip nice and stable in this internally rotated position. The leg is moving, but everything else stays stable. So we do these little butterfly kicks or clamshells. I've heard them called both. You decide which name you like best and tell me, and I'll use that one. So nice and slow, deliberate, trying to hold that alignment in the leg. Good. So we're going to do 4 more of these, starting now. Now once you're back together, go ahead and just straighten the legs and let them relax for just a moment. And then we're going to take that top leg and bring it forward. And again, however you place it on the floor is fine. Just make sure your shoulders and hips are still stacked. Lift through the inner side waist on the bottom and the top. And then we're going to lift that leg up. So now we're going to make that inner thigh do some work, but keep hugging through the side waist. 10, 9, 8. We're just pulsing it up. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now we're holding it up, and we're going to try to lift it a little bit higher from deep in the belly. Hold that for 10, 9, 8. Don't let that side waist fall. 6, 5. A little bit bigger lift. 3, 2, 1. Coming on down. We're going to roll onto our back. And then we're going to take a little twist here. So you can keep the legs as they were over to the left if you like, and just let your shoulder find its home. You could even wrap one leg around the other. Or if you'd rather start with your legs to the right, you can certainly start that way. For me, it doesn't really seem to matter, but some people it does. So we're holding steady, breathing. Noticing where you are. Nice deep breaths. Take the legs over to the opposite side. I like just pause in the middle first. And then after a few breaths, take it the other way. And again, you can wrap the legs or make it a little fancier. I'm keeping it very simple right now. Letting this pose unwind the body. Wound up, and then we're going to unwind. Come on back. And this is time for Shavasana. So snuggle your shoulders in. If you can stretch your legs all the way up, stretch them out. If for any reason that's problematic, you have a couple of options. You can take the blanket that we had at the beginning and put that under your legs or under your head if you need a pillow. And then you could also just rest your feet on the floor, okay? So you want the low back to be happy. You want your head to be happy, so you need a little extra padding for that. You could even just fold your mat if you don't have a blanket handy. And then allow the body to completely let go. This pose is all for our nervous system. So as we move through yoga poses, really any physical exercise, but definitely yoga because of the emphasis on lengthening, there's a lot of information being sent from the fascia to the brain. The fascia contains more nerve endings than the muscle. And so in that way, when we're really tugging on the body in the way that flexibility training does, we send a lot of messages. And those same neural pathways are also responsible for helping us relax. So the reason for this pose at the end of yoga classes is to allow for that integration to happen. Sometimes it seems like the thing to skip, but it might be the one thing not to skip. Especially in times when the world is a bit stressful and difficult to manage. Gently, we're just going to notice that the body is breathing. Take a few moments just to be grateful that that breath is coming and going. It seems sometimes to me like a luxury to breathe right now. So I try to remind myself to be grateful for something that I often take for granted. Nice big inhale. Let go with a big sigh. And you can gather yourself up. Oh, give yourself a hug and a back massage. Or a stretch. Whatever feels like a plan. And then bring yourself to a seated position when you're ready. Oh. thank you for joining me for a little yoga Pilates fusion this morning. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take a nice big breath. Let go. Namaste, yogis.